Now they're paying $100 for those things.
What, dungarees? How much were they? These are jeans.
Yeah, we had to put patches on ours.
Why?
Well,
If you had a hole.
we wore them out. We had to keep them long. We didn't go around with worn out pants like that. We patched them. Patch here, patch there, patch there.
What would
That's
you
what
wear?
you ought to do. You get some patches and put on there.
What would you even wear them out on?
We played all day long. All summer.
September 22nd, 2018.
Yeah.
In Enfield, Connecticut.
Yeah.
On a beautiful Saturday.
Right by the Massachusetts line.
Right near the Massachusetts line. So what is your name?
My name right now at the moment, as much as I can remember, is Normand Oscar Brunelle.
Oscar.
Oscar.
Is there a story to that?
Nope.
Was it supposed to be Oscar Norman?
Yeah, the story is my mother wanted Oscar, but my godmother wanted Norman. So they changed it on the way to church when I got baptized.
Your godmother had something to say about that?
Yes, she was godmother.
Who was your godmother?
She passed away at 100 years old.
What was her name?
Her name was, I believe, was Lita Golden.
Lita Golden.
Yes.
Living in Woonsocket?
Woonsocket. Everybody comes from Woonsocket.
Hmm.
All my aunts and uncles, all my cousins.
You didn't have any family out of Rhode Island?
No.
No. So what is your current age?
My age at the moment is 89. And in April I will be 90. The big 90.
When were you born?
I was born 1929. My mother had a Great Depression. It just so happened it was the Depression year, 1929, when the stock market fell. And people were out there jumping out of the buildings and everything in New York.
No.
Oh yes.
Really?
Their stocks went down.
Jumping out of buildings?
Oh yes. They lost everything.
They're only like 2 stories high or something, right?
They
weren't tall.
They have pictures of that in the news and everything. Oh yes, that was bad times.
What was your parents doing to work at the time?
My mother worked in a textile mill, and so did my father. My father was a weaver. He used to weave cloth. And my mother worked in a textile making thread out of cotton. They had these special machines that they made thread out of the cotton balls and put them on spools, made thread.
They didn't grow cotton.
No, we got the cotton from the south. They brought it up in bales. And that's how they made the thread. Then from there, they made cloth out of the thread.
So you're born, what day? When were you born? What day?
I was born in Woonsocket, Rhode Island on 201 Sale Street.
You were born in your own house?
I was born in that house, and I grew up there till I was, 11 years old. And at 11, my grandfather, who lived upstairs with his daughter and son-in-law, passed away. And I gave my uncle some money to buy a house, so we moved from Sale Street, which was the poor section, and we moved a little step up, not to the high class, but in the middle. And they bought a house, with a 2-family house, and my mother and her sister always lived in the same house. They lived on the 2nd floor, my mother lived on the 1st floor.
Doris?
Huh?
What was her sister's name?
No, Aura Plouffe.
Aura Plouffe.
But she married a Sylvester. So we moved on Avenue C, and then the war broke out, and my uncle had to go in the service because he had no children.
What war?
World War II.
World War II.
Yeah.
So that was about
1941 started out, and in 43 he was captured by the Germans, and he was in a German prison camp till 46 when the war ended.
That was your uncle?
My uncle upstairs. and he had a 1940 Buick that we couldn't touch, couldn't even get around it. And whenever it rained, he put it in the garage. He really kept.
So he had a garage.
Oh yeah, we had a 2-car garage.
Really?
My father had a 36 package, which I learned to drive on. And one day he had that car, and I used to drive him to work after I got my license. And then I stopped where he usually buys his cars. And it was a nice 41 Buick over there that I thought was pretty neat. Nice fast, 2-door fastback. So I went to the dealer and I says, would you let me take this car to pick up my father? He said, sure, go ahead. Because my father always bought his cars over there. So he knew my father.
Huh.
So I went over to pick up my father at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which his shift was letting out. And he walks on, I said, what are you doing? Where's my car? What's this? I said, just get in and drive it, Dad. See what you think. So he got in it, and he liked it, and he bought it.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a big 8-cylinder, straight 8, with dual carburetors on it. That was quite a car.
What year? What kind of car was it?
Buick, 1941 Buick.
What color?
Black.
Were they all black?
Oh, well, you didn't have much choice back then. It was either black or gray, battleship gray. That was it.
No white?
Because they didn't have any way of mixing the paint like they do today. So the cars would not. You didn't have to worry about what color you're gonna pick.
How much was gas?
10 cents a gallon.
10 cents a gallon.
Yeah, because when I borrowed the car for $1 worth of gas, would you go a lot of places?
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what was it like growing up in Woonsocket? And that's Rhode Island.
Yes, in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, that's what it was. We lived on a dead-end street, so we used to play all kinds of games in the road. We used to make a football out of the stockings, and we played with that.
Stockings?
Yes. And then you would just take a stocking, load it up with the other stocking, tie a knot, and that was our little football. And we used to have a lot of fun with that. And we used to come up with all kinds of games that we used to play hide and seek, and we play hopscotch, and even though I'm a guy, we used to do it with the girls.
That ain't bad.
We played a lot of horseshoes, and we did a lot of roller skating. They had metal wheels on those roller skates, though.
In the street?
In the street. Yeah.
So if you hit a rock,
well,
you're going to be flying, you're going to be on the ground.
Yeah, you have to watch it, yeah. We had a nice building in the back that wasn't there, but they had a cement floor. So we used to roller skate on that. Then we used to play buck, 3 fingers up. Now that game there, you would one guy would stand up with his hands like this, and the other guy would come over and put his head in it, and you'd have 3 guys like that, and the other team would run up, jump right on top of their backs, and try to break them. Yeah, and then you would try to guess how many fingers we had up. If they could guess it, then it would be their turn to do the games and get on our backs. It was crazy. It was crazy.
So you survived without video games?
Yes. Oh, yes. We didn't have videos. We had to dream up our own games outdoors. Because when we got out of school, which was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we got home, put our books in the house, get out, and we played till 5 o'clock at night. My father would come out and whistle, and we'd be there and make sure we'd run into the house for supper. And then after supper, we'd go out till it got dark. And that wasn't too often, because it got dark pretty early in October, November. We had daylight saving time was gone. So by 4:30, it was dark. So we played under the street light.
There was a street light.
We had a street light.
You had street lights.
Right in front of the house.
Hmm.
Then in the winter time, there was a shop behind my house, and there was a hill in their driveway. So when the snow came, we used to slide there all night till at least 8 o'clock. That was the time we had to be home, 8 o'clock at night. That was in the wintertime.
Mm.
Summertime we had a beautiful place for maybe about, I'd say quarter of a mile across the river, but they had a walk bridge over there where we used to walk across, and that's where we played. That was our playground. We had played with baseball over there, and we had a big hole. It was like a cavity, but it was all sand. We used to take all our trucks down and play in the sand and everything. Oh yes.
You didn't go fishing?
No fishing back then.
No fishing.
There was a river, and there was no fish in the river. Not in our river.
Not in that river?
Because our river was loaded with trash, railroad junk, all
From the factories?
old tires, refrigerators, people would throw in the river.
The Blackstone?
In Blackstone.
The Blackstone River?
Blackstone River. Yeah.
Hmm.
What we used to do in the summertime, we'd take some potatoes, make a little fire, and put our potatoes in there and have baked potatoes. They were good, nice and crispy.
Hmm.
Yeah, they were good.
So that was your favorite food growing up?
Well, in a way it was, as far as playing outdoors. But then we also had a New York, Coney Island place that had New York style wieners.
That was your favorite?
That was the wieners and fish and chip in Woonsocket. That was the best. Yeah. And we had quite a few little fish markets. A lot of people came up and made their own little fish and chips, and it was very good. But they all had mostly the same recipe. It was nice and crispy. Very crispy. And the French fries, you can't beat them.
Hmm.
The best French fries in the world.
What was your mom's favorite meal? Your favorite meal from your mom?
My mother used to make a beautiful, it was like it's hard to explain, but she would take potatoes and slice them. And she would put them in like a milk broth and put pork chops in it. And then put it in the oven and let that bake. Those pork chops were very tender.
Tender?
Tender. They'd fall apart like a chicken.
And it was pork chops with
Pork chops.
bone in? Bone in?
The bone, yes, the bone in. And they were delicious. And there's only one sister that does that. And she's still alive. But she lives in Woonsocket, so I don't get too much of time to get down there.
That's Pauline?
Julie. Juliet,
sister,
she's
yep.
one of the twins. The twin is Julian, who lives in town here in Enfield.
Did your dad cook? Did your dad cook?
My father was a very good cook. Yeah, he also liked to bake. He used to bake his own bread and mix his own dough. He had a regular mixer, and he'd mix the old dough, and he'd make bread, and then he would make nice fried dough.
Oh, he would make fried dough.
Good. And it wasn't like the fried dough you have today. It would rise up this thick. You could slice it in half, put jelly in the middle. It was very, very good.
He made it with jelly inside?
Yeah. Well, you and John
Yeah.
did that. Yeah.
Yep.
When I married I won't say, when I married Loretta, I wasn't going to say my third wife because they'll say, what kind of a guy was that?
3 wives.
3 wives, yeah.
We'll stay with your kid. We'll get there. Let's see. What do you want to say about your mom and dad, or
My father was a very strict
what do you do?
person,
Yeah.
very strict. We had to be on the ball with him. We had to be home for supper. If we were not, we were punished. My mother, she was a very beautiful woman. Never raised a voice at us or nothing. She was a very nice, warm, loving mother. And we used to go upstairs when my father, at night when my father was falling asleep on his chair, we used to sneak upstairs at my grandfather's place, upstairs.
Who was your grandfather?
Grandfather, Pepe Pluff, we call him.
Pepe Pluff.
Pepe Pluff. That's what we call him.
What was his?
And,
You have his first name?
I can't recall his first name because.
But you remember your grandfather and grandmother?
My grandmothers, both my grandmothers, on my father's side and on my mother's side, both young, died in their early years. I don't think they reached 65. So I really never knew my grandfathers, but I knew both my grandfathers. My grandfather Brunelle was in a nursing home when I was 12 years old. So we used to go visit him over there once in a while. That was it. And he passed away.
Do you want a drink?
No, not really.
Okay, it sounds like you need a drink. You want a drink?
Well, you can get.
No, it's okay. I have my tea here,
You
but
can get a bottle of water if you want.
I'm good with a drink. But my tea's in there if you want my tea.
You put it on hold.
I can put it on hold. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Oh,
I'm fine. It just sounds like you're getting hoarse.
Horse? No, no.
Okay. Okay.
That's my regular old age voice.
Okay.
It changes. It changes.
So, what were some of your jobs when you were? I mean, you stopped school when?
Well, I started working at 16, and I was too shy to go looking for a job, so my father took me around, made sure I went into the employment office. So
At
my
16?
first job, actually, before that, when I was 15, I worked on a farm. I lived on a farm. We had to do the haying, and we had to do the bottling of the milk. And I was going to school at that time. So I would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock, and we'd go peddle milk till school started at 7:30.
Peddle milk. You mean sell it?
Deliver milk.
Deliver it to neighbors?
We have a regular milk route. That we
Walking?
had different people. No, we go in a 38 Chevy truck. We'd load the back of the truck all loaded with cases of milk.
You drove?
No, my friend's father drove.
Oh, okay.
And him and I used to run up and down with
Glass.
cases of milk, maybe 6 quarts, maybe on 3rd or 4th floor, and running up there. And a lot of times they had a note, they wanted eggs, so we had to run down, get eggs, and run back up again. And that was quite a thing, but I didn't mind it.
You got tips?
No.
No tips?
No tip.
No one tipped you?
No tips. People were poor back then. They just paid for their milk and butter.
How much was milk?
Well, I don't know if it was 10 cents a quart or whatever. But I know the reason why, when I worked on my farm, my mother and father was getting free milk from the person that I stayed on the farm with. Because I used to live there, and I'd go home on a Sunday. I'd walk home. It wasn't within walking distance.
So you lived where you work? It wasn't your parents' place? It wasn't your parents' farm?
I lived on the farm for 2 years before I turned 16.
But that was a job?
Well, it was my friend.
So you lived with him?
He was a buddy, so I lived there, and they fed me and everything. Everything was free. So the milk was free for my mother and father. And the family, they had 7 kids. So
Your family?
Yes.
7 kids?
I was the 8th one.
8 kids?
Yeah, it was 8. 4 boys and 4 girls.
But more came, right?
No, that was it.
That was it?
4 boys and 4 girls.
You're the youngest?
No, I'm the 3rd one from the oldest. Yeah.
But the farm was in Woonsocket?
Farm was on North Smithfield.
In North Smithfield. Okay.
And up the Great Road. I used to go there up on my bicycle. And winter and summer. Hot and cold.
Was that
snow and rain.
Oof.
Yeah.
Was that so? Any other interest? What was your favorite job you've had?
Well, that day on a farm, I liked the farm. It was fun, especially when we did the haying, because we'd be on top of the truck. And then when you get the hay into the barn, they would bring the tractor up with the load of hay. They would hook up a big hook, and they would grab the hay, and then we would get on top of that. And the tractor had a motor, and it would make it go up, and then right into the barn. and then before the fork opened up, we would jump off.
Sounds dangerous.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Hopefully nobody got hurt.
No one got hurt. No one got
And there was
hurt.
cows? I guess they had milk. There was lots of cows then, right?
Well, that was on, they owned 3 farms. One farm was just where the cows were, and they did all the milking. And then they would bring up to farm 2. Then we would take the milk out of the cans and put it in a big vat. They had a special machine that would pour it into the bottles. And then they had a special machine, put the caps on. Then the first 3 cases of milk was marked grade A. That was fussy. That was for fussy people.
Well, there's no difference in the first milk, right?
They were paying more money for grade A milk.
For nothing. It's the same milk, right?
Yeah.
Oh my.
But that's the trick of marketing.
Wow. That was your favorite job that you've ever had?
Well, no, that's not a favorite. But that was when in my younger days.
Yeah, okay.
Before I had to go in and quit school and go into working.
When did you quit school?
I quit school at 16.
So what grade?
I was 1945. I only completed the 7th grade.
7th grade.
That's it.
And you never got your high school?
No, I put my foot into the 8th grade in September, but 2 weeks after school started, I broke my leg on a bicycle. So I had to stay out for 3 months. Then when I finally started going into school, it was walking distance, but my leg would swell up. So I would skip a few days, and the nun said, if you can't come in a whole week, stay home. So I stayed home. And at 16, in April, I was 16, so that was the last days of school. I quit. Then went to work.
And your parents let you quit?
Well, yeah, because back then, when you go at 16, they didn't have money for school, for colleges or nothing. There's only one brother that went to college, and then he just completed high school. Then the war broke out, and he had to go in the Navy.
Which brother was that?
That was the older brother, Albert. He got into the Navy. He was on PT boats, and the Japanese shelled their boat, and they were swamped on an island. And the shell went through the boat, and it started sinking. So he was a machinist mate down in the engine room. So he took his life preserver off, and he stuffed it in a shell hole. That saved the ship. They were able to get on the sandbar. And then they all swam to an island. And then they stayed there for a couple of weeks. And they had to hide when the Japanese patrol boats came by. And then finally the Americans came in and saved them. So he received the Navy Cross for that. So that was good.
Uncle Albert.
And getting back to my starting to work, I started work at a garment shop. We used to build the ponchos and field jackets for the Army. I used to work in the shipping room. I used to have to pick them in boxes and everything. But then after about a year working over there, me and my buddy says, you know, we got to go ask the boss for a raise. So we walked in and asked the boss for a raise. He said, no way. So I said, okay, sorry. We both quit right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot?
Right there on the spot. We walked out.
Without knowing if you had another job?
That's right. That's the way we did things. Well, there was a lot of work around back then. A lot of jobs.
Oh, okay, okay.
So then after that, I worked into a dye house. And what I was a sample kisser.
What?
A sample kisser in a dye house. What they did
What's a dye house?
They dyed the cloth.
Okay.
Different colors for different companies. So what they do is when they're dyeing this cloth, they have to add so much salt or whatever they dye to get to the right shade. So what they do is they cut a sample of the cloth. And I used to pick up the sample and I used to put it on this little machine. I used to dry it. And I had to kiss it to make sure that it was dry. Because your lips can tell if a cloth is dry or wet. And when it was dry, then they could match it and see if that was the right shade.
Oh, the color was done,
changing
changing
right
colors.
Shade, it was
Gotcha.
good. So the guy was okayed that.
So you got
So
paid
then-
to kiss cloth.
I was, kissing cloth. Well, it's a title they give you. Anyways.
Yep.
But anyways, after that, the war ended. So then I lost my job because the servicemen came back and they were able to get their job back. So I lost the job there.
How much were you making?
Oh, I think I was getting maybe 30 cents an hour.
30 cents an hour.
Yeah, that wasn't much bad money. He wasn't making much money. I was making maybe, if I made $30 a week, my father would get $5. I would get $1 out of every $5.
What?
If
What?
if
You were
I-
making money for your dad? Your dad took
I
all
had
your
to
money?
pay- no, I had to pay board, room and board.
At what age?
At 16, when I was working,
All of your brothers and sisters as well?
everybody had to pay room and board. We all had to pay. So my father gave us $1 on every $5 that I brought home. So at $5 a week, well, of course, you could go far with $1 worth of gas.
Really?
Yeah, because the wieners were 2 for a quarter.
But you didn't have a car, right?
No, I didn't have a car. My father had a car.
So you would borrow the car and go get
Oh,
wieners.
yeah. And I used to be all nerved up to go ask my father for the keys. Because he would say, oh, I suppose so. So then he'd give me the keys. So,
And you weren't in, so you didn't get drafted?
nope, because the Second World War, I was too young. Then when the Korean War broke out, I was already married and had a child. So I got deferred. So I never made any of the wars. So the only service I was in the Boy Scouts. That's it. And I never got beyond tenderfoot. I didn't make Eagle Scout or nothing. So those were my younger years.
Those are your younger years.
Yeah.
Was there any favorite kind of music at the time that you liked, or movie?
Well,
Actually,
back then it wasn't music that so much as what they used to do. They used to come out with a sheet once a month with all the hit parade nuts, all of the hit parade, and they would have all the words and everything. And we used to sing. We used to know all the songs because we had all the words to it.
the 50s or 40s? 50s?
In the 40s.
In the 40s.
In the 40s, yes. We had the big bands like Tommy Dorsey, Harry James. We had Vaughn Monroe and all those good singers.
And you didn't have a TV. Did you have a TV when you were growing up?
Back in the,
I mean, was TV out?
it came out in, let's see, we had it in, I'd say about in the late 40s, I think they started coming out. Little TV, and you had to have rabbit ears. You had no outside antennas. It was pretty tough when they first came out. You couldn't get good reception, and they had the howdy doody on the patent. They used to come up when you have a patent before the station opened up. They had a howdy doody and a big cross to make sure that your picture was perfect. You had to set that picture up to get it perfect. Otherwise, it was all lopsided. It kept rolling. Yeah,
Was there any favorite show you had?
well,
And was that a big deal when y'all got your first TV, or?
well, actually, I didn't have no favorite shows, but on weekends, Saturday night was all good comedy shows, and that was very interesting. They had Jack Benny and all them guys, Diana Shore, and all Howdy Doody and all that stuff. It was all. They had good weekend shows, and no killing, none of that stuff. We had cowboys, Hopalong Cassidy, and the Lone Ranger. Yeah.
What about radio? You had a radio in your house?
Oh yeah, well that before TV came out. Yeah, we had radio, and our favorite shows was on Sunday night, and we had The Shadow.
Shadow.
The Shadow would come out, and we'd have the Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet.
The Green Hornet, yeah, and it was good because you could figure all that excitement out in your brain. You know, I love the mystery and all that stuff. It was really good stuff. And then the women used to listen to the soaps on radio. They had let's see, they had Our Gal Sunday. They used to listen to that. Yeah. Stella Dallas and all those. We used to walk to school and we could hear all the radios because they had no air conditioning in the summertime. But it was hot, so the windows were all open. So the mothers stayed home back then and they all listened to their soaps at 11 to 1 o'clock.
Yeah. What was your first car?
My first car was a 36 Pontiac. What a piece of junk. I didn't know too much about cars back then.
You bought it?
I bought it.
How much?
I was 18 years old. My first car cost me $35. And within 3 months I had to have the motor overhauled. It was an oil burner. Of course, back then we had a lot of smokers, a lot of oil burners.
Did anyone help you buy it, or you bought it, you negotiated it on your own?
No, I bought it on my own.
So it's used? Used?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, 36, that was in 1948. Yeah, so it was an old car. Yeah, then the other cars I picked up was from guys at work that was selling them. I never owned a new car till 1984. But all the others were all junkers. You get them now. After the 36 was a 35 Chrysler I picked up from a guy at work. Then I had a 1938 Ford. Then it went to, from the 38 went to a 41 Ford. And from the 41 to a 49 Ford. I like Fords because Chevys were hard to work on.
What kind of what model though?
Well, we didn't go by, there weren't too many models back then. You had the regular sedan or a deluxe.
Really?
That's all there was. Didn't have
a name.
No, just a Ford Deluxe. 2-door sedan or 4-door sedan. Coupe, that was it. And you had a business coupe which had no seat in the back. Just for businessmen. But,
so I guess at some point you found a lady and got married in Woonsocket?
yes, my first lady I met was, she was working in one of the garment shops where I was working. I used to give all the women bundles of clothes to sew and put together. So they had this young girl over there. Naturally, I was young, she was young. But my buddy that worked there, she wanted to go out with him. But he didn't want to go out with her, so he said, hey, Norman, he said, go out with Lillian. I said, she'll go out with you. So I did, I took him up on it, and I asked for her a date. And she said yes. So we went out, and I met a lot of her other friends that came across also later on in the years. But after I got with my first wife, she was kind of dominating.
That was Lillian?
Lillian.
What was her last name?
Lillian Dumaine.
Dumaine.
Yeah.
And where'd you go on your first date?
Parking.
Parking?
We didn't have much places to go back then. We would either go to the movies or borrow the car from Dad and go parking. But that's all we did. Steam up the windows in the wintertime. But outside that...
how old? So you got married. How old were you when you got married?
What?
How old were you when you got married?
I was 18 when I first got married.
18.
Yeah. And I had my first daughter when I was 19. And
What was her name? Yeah.
Her name was Connie.
Connie. Yep.
Yeah, she was that. But then everything went bad, so I had to get divorced, and I lost the custody of Connie. So that was one of my crutches that I carried through life.
It's one of your, yeah.
Yeah, so But after that, I met another woman who I used to go also knew from school. Her and her sister, they were twins. And I met her at school, and at the time it was just school. But as years went by, after I was divorced, I met up with her sister. She was going to Providence, so I gave her a ride to Providence. She was waiting for a bus, and I happened to stop. I pulled over. I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "Oh, I'm going to Providence."
What was her name?
Her name is Dolores. So I took Dolores to Providence. Then on the way, she asked me if I had a girlfriend or whatever. I said no. She had a boyfriend, but she said, "If you're interested, my sister doesn't have a boyfriend." So I looked up his sister, which was Anita, and we got along pretty well. She was kind of shy at first, but she was good. And she worked at a couple places at a diner. She was a waitress at a diner. I used to meet her there every now and then. So finally, after 6 months or almost a year, we decided to get married. So I married Anita, and a year later, Raymond was born. And no, it was Normand Jean. Normand Jean, my era. Normand Jean was first.
How long were you married to your first wife?
I was married to only 3 years,
3 years.
and I got divorced. Then the second wife, I was married 20 years, and we had
You had
3
Norma.
children.
Norma was your first.
Normand Jean was the first, Raymond was the second, and along came Alan.
Oopsie.
So, and then things got worse, and went too good around in Connecticut. So
Yeah, somehow you got to Connecticut. I'm not sure how you got, when you decided to leave Woonsocket, but
Oh well, we didn't need it. We were at Warren Heights. Well, like I say, we were at also. We worked in this machine shop. We were overhauling textile machinery, and there were 3 guys that. Well, you know, at work there's always one guy that gets away with everything. He doesn't do the work that should be done, and the boss favors him more or less. So one of the guys seen the ad in the Woonsocket Call, and the United Aircraft had an employment office in Providence, and they're looking for help to work in the aircraft. So we decided to take a day off, the 3 of us. We went into Providence, all got hired. So when we got back to work the following day, one at a time we walked up and gave our notice to the boss. Told him we were going to quit in 3 days. So he didn't like the idea of that. I said, "What are you going to work?" I said, "We're going up to Connecticut to work for the aircraft. They're building propellers over there." So he said, "Oh, propellers? They'll be out in 10 years.
propellers.
Yeah. So little did he know, they also doing jet engines. They're doing all kinds of accessories for aircraft, air conditioning units, starters, all kinds of stuff. So we stayed there, and I worked there for 37 years.
And what was your job? What was your job title?
I was hired by Experimental. So luckily for me, Experimental never laid off anybody. So we worked on top secret stuff. And
When you started?
One of the top secrets was the SR-71, was the Black Beauty, was top secret. That was the aircraft followed the U-2, supersonic aircraft, and I worked on the afterburner control and the fuel pump, and I worked on that for a while till they eliminated Experimental. The government stopped.
Were you building?
I was building. I was a builder back then.
Assembler?
Assembler, and I worked all kinds of overtime, made all kinds of money.
But there wasn't a lot of those aircraft though, right? I mean, how many did you have to build?
Well, we were in the experimentals, so we're still experimenting with these equipment. So if it would fail, you would have to find out the reason why it failed. So sometimes it would blow up, sometimes bearing failure, or you would have leakage, and we'd have to perfect that. So that's how they got to get the unit to work.
So
perfect.
this was while they were still
In
developing the SR-71.
Yes, yes, because we didn't know what was going on at the time.
Well, they weren't flying them in Connecticut though. That
They
was
weren't.
somewhere else, right?
At the time, they weren't flying them. Then they started flying them when they got the contract to build them. We lost the contract for the fuel control to Bendix.
Bendix.
Bendix was another company
Yep.
that built all this stuff, accessories. So we lost it for the fuel control, but we got the afterburner control and the pump control, which was good.
You didn't do any travel then for that?
Well, back then I didn't travel. I only traveled.
You never saw the plane.
Never saw the plane till I went to Texas to my Alan's wedding, and that's where I seen the first one. That was quite an aircraft. But I knew the history on it afterwards because the aircraft was, the pilot used to take hours to dress him up, almost like an astronaut. And the aircraft used to, when they filled it with fuel, it would leak all over the airport because it was all titanium. And what happened, they couldn't seal it till they got into supersonic, and then the metal would expand and seal everything up. That's when it was safe. But that fuel, you couldn't ignite it. It took a lot to burn it.
So was that your favorite job you've ever had then? Working?
Yeah, that's where I retired.
What was the name of the company?
Company was Hamilton Standard. In the meantime, in between jobs, I got a part-time job in a body shop in order to get the money to buy a house. So I worked 2 jobs. I worked the body shop during the morning, and then in the afternoon I was on second shift. I'd go in about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I worked the second shift. So I did that for 2 years to get the money for down payment on the house.
And you bought a house?
So I bought a house in
Where?
Connecticut, Marshall Drive.
How much did it cost?
$11,500. A 5.5 room ranch.
Wow, $11,000.
Yep. So then with all the money that I saved, working overtime and I was able to build a garage. And I built a 2-stall garage with a breezeway for $4,500.
Which was, yeah.
That's pretty cheap. Yeah.
And that was a good job then. They did a good job on that?
Yeah. So in that garage I restored a couple cars. I had a 65, 66 Corvair that I worked on, but I didn't get to finish it because there was a few flaws in there I didn't like, and I was too fussy, so I sold them. I sold them, got my money back, so I didn't lose no money.
Your favorite car you ever had?
Well, my favorite car, I've had a lot of favorites. The best one, the fastest one, was a 58 Studebaker Golden Hawk with a McCullen supercharger. And that thing flew. I had that for quite a few years. But the trouble back then, we had trouble with cars body rotting because they used to put salt on the roads in the wintertime and you couldn't stop them from rotting. So that's why a lot of times you had to get rid of your car because they would rot out, especially the 46 and 47 Mustangs. When they came out, the undercarriage was just rot away. Very bad.
So you never had any unlucky accidents with any of your cars then?
I never had any accident with my cars. I was very lucky. Well, I've been a very cautious driver. I'm not a speed freak. I was more or less a customizer person. I'd like to change the appearances of my cars.
So you did customizing?
Oh yes, I did customize. I did a few cars quite a few times. The best one I had was a 51 Ford Victoria, which I customized 3 times. The last time I customized it, I put a whole nose of a 50 Studebaker. The fenders that extend out I put those on the Ford with a 47 Nash grill. And the rear deck, I pleated and rolled the rear deck. I had Cadillac pointers in the rear deck for exhaust. And I had the car painted white and gold.
Gold.
Gold scallops. We had a guy in the club. We started a hot rod club in Enfield. And we had these kids that had a lot of talent. And this one kid was able to scallop the car, and we sprayed it all with white and gold. It was a beautiful car. I was going to drive it to California, but it blew a head gasket. So I had to trade it in for this little 53 Studebaker that I went out to California with Ray and Norman Jean and their mother.
You went out to California?
I went out to California. I was going to get a job out there.
What year?
1960. But the aircraft over there was also on strike, like the place in Enfield was on strike also. That was the striking years back in the 60s. The unions wanted more money for the workers.
So you quit your job in Connecticut?
I quit my job cold turkey.
Oof.
No place to go in California, no job.
You had money in your pocket to drive to California.
Yeah,
That's a long drive.
I had $1,500.
How long did it take you to drive to California?
It took a week. 7 days.
What month? Summertime?
From June, yeah, the middle of June. We drove over the Rockies with snow on the mountains. There was snow up there.
Was that the highlight of your trip?
Well, yeah, that was the high point, yeah. And I had a friend that was in San Fernando Valley, so that's where I was able to stay. He knew I was coming up, and we stayed at his place for the remaining week till we decided to drive back. And he said, "You're crazy, I'll give you a job here." I said, "No, I gotta take my wife back. She wants to go back home." So I felt it my obligation to take her back home.
You drove all the way back.
So I drove all the way back.
Did you have the house before that? No.
No,
Okay.
I was renting in Green Valley.
Okay.
I was renting.
Green Valley and Enfield.
Yes. And I drove, it took 1 week to drive out. I stayed out there 1 week, turned around, came back for another week. That was it.
So you came back and you pleaded with your boss to give you a job back?
I couldn't get the job back right away because, and this was in July, so I couldn't get the job back till the following year because they had to take all the strikers back because they were on strike, so they had to take them back first. So having a good record of being a good builder, being a good assembler, I called my boss up and I told him to try and get me back in, that I had this unfortunate happening in California. So seeing that I was a good builder, he got me back in. Because what happened is I didn't leave in good conditions. Because when I was planning on going to California, I had no money. So I had to my 401k. So in order to get your 401k, you had to quit your job. So I didn't want to do that. So I told my daughter, my boss, I was going on vacation. And he said, "Well, you can't. We can't spare you." I said, "I got to go out there." I said, "I got an appointment." I said, "If you don't give me my vacation, I'm going to quit my job." So he says, "Oh, you don't want to do that." So he gave me the vacation. So when I went out there, and before I got out there, I called up the company and I quit. I had to do this in order to get my money, because I needed the money from the 401k. I know it was a dirty trick, but it was the only way for me to get my money. And I needed it because I knew I wasn't coming back. Little did I know that I would be back. So you never burn the bridges down. You never know when you're going to use them on the way back.
So where'd you work then? What did you do when you got back?
So when I get back, I didn't work for half a year. But Anita got a job at Buxton, where they make wallets in Agawam. So she got a job over there in Agawam. And I found a little rent on Pearl Street in Enfield. So we lived there for about 6 months. Then I got my job back. And then her sister Dolores says, we're going to move to rent. I got a nice house you can rent in Rockville. We'll rent it together. So Anita said, that's a pretty good idea. So we did. So I packed up again, moved to Rockville. And we stayed there a couple of years because it didn't go too well with Dolores. And then she had a boyfriend who was married, and she was giving his wife a bad time. So I more or less told Dolores it's not very good practice, that she shouldn't be doing this. So she got upset with me and packed up and left. Left me stuck with the house and the full rent,
Right.
which I couldn't afford anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get a rent back in Enfield. So I moved back to Enfield, Connecticut. Got a nice big apartment on Hartford Avenue, which was nice. Then I worked part-time at the gas station at Pacello's, pumping gas. And that's where I had a 55 Studebaker on the side I was working on. So I decided I wanted to soup it up a little bit so he had a better engine on the car he had in the back of the garage. So I bought the engine, and they put the engine in my car, and then I had to work on it. So it was a swap from 6 volt to 12 volt, and that doesn't go too well with the gauges. So I had to run with the gauges upside down. They weren't reading correct. Then I had to do a shorten the drive shaft. Luckily, we had a welder in town, so we got that done. I think about it today, and I wonder how I ever did that in the yard. There was no garage. It was all done on the side of the house. Of course, I had a car to run around with. That wasn't my main car. I always more or less had 2 cars, one to pull around with and one to travel. So those were the crazy years. And then we also started a hot rod club in Enfield back in it had to be 57. 1957 to 1960, because I moved to California in 1960. So we had about 18 members, and it was good. We had meetings every week. We had welding outfits and everything, so they could do the painting there and everything. So it was a good.
Was there car shows, or what did you do with the cars? I mean, you
shows.
drove these cars?
We had car shows. We did a big car show in Enfield, and the money went to the Wales Point Orphanage for kids, and they put up a nice blacktop area for their basketball court. So that was good. Yeah, we were in with the police and everything, so we went. We're trying to get the real hot rodders. We call it a hot rod, but it was more or less customized and hot rodders. But we more or less put rules down. You couldn't go around harassing anybody, and you had to have mufflers that weren't too loud. And we used to have meets. We used to have road runs and everything. Go all over Massachusetts, the whole caravan. So it was really fun.
You talked a lot about work, but did you remember did you used to go on vacation when you were a kid?
Well, my father used to take us to Ocean Grove, which is in Massachusetts someplace, over near there. Well, it's on the other side of Rhode Island, up by the Newport area, in that area, Seekonk and everything. He used to set up a big tent. We'd tent over there, and we do fishing and clamming.
Clamming.
Yeah. And then one year, me and my buddy, when we had a girlfriend, we went up there and we put a tent up, and we brought the girls up, but we didn't stay overnight. No, there's no such thing with the girls. No. They always went home at night. But him and I stayed there for a week, and we did some fishing, which was nice. Yeah.
So your favorite vacationing spot?
Well, actually, the best spot was the Breachway in Rhode Rhode Island, the beach where we used to camp.
What town was that?
That was in Kingston.
Kingston?
Charleston, Rhode Island.
Charleston, Rhode Island.
Charleston, yeah. Beachway, used to go there. You had to be there for about 6 o'clock in the morning to get a spot. Because if you weren't there early enough, they would fill up.
For your camper?
And it was a good fishing area. My brother Robert and I, we each had a camper. He used to get these walk-in vans, and he converted it into a camper. That's what we did back then. Homemade campers. Then a few years after that, well, I decided to buy one at a campground over there that was stationary. And that was a 32-foot fifth wheel, but it was permanent, stationary. And I built next to it a 10 by 20 room, and I prefabbed that in my garage during the winter. And then when spring broke up, one weekend my brother Robert and me, we put it in our pickup trucks, and we hauled the panels up there. And we had Jeffrey, which was my son-in-law, and we put it up in one weekend right next to it. So it was good. I wasn't a carpenter, but I was proud of myself. I laid out all the schematic on my garage floor, and I did all the stud work. And then I had my brother Julian come over, and we painted the panels for the outside, Texture 111, that came out that year. Then we painted that. So it was all set to throw together when we went out.
When was that? What year you say that was?
That there was back in, let's see, you had to ask. Let me go back, let's see. Oh, that's right. That was before I retired, that's right. That was back in 91. Yeah, that was back in 91. And we stayed at the campground for 10 years because the lady had to sell it. Because the town of Kingston didn't like, because we had homemade latrines and everything. And we had little pots there and everything, so the town didn't like that. And this woman that owned the place, she was a big shot in town because she was one of the school teachers. So she got away with murder. But after a while, the town wanted her out, so finally they worked her out. And luckily, I sold my fifth wheel before it closed up, so I got my money back on it. So that was the end of camping.
Cool. So, do you think there's something they've been doing that has allowed you to live as long as you have?
Well, all I can
What's
do
your
is,
secret?
I thank my mother's genes, because I think genes have a lot to do with your health.
Your mom?
Yeah, my mother and father have pretty good genes. But my grandfather, on the Brunelle side, lived to 85, and on his sisters, he had 2 sisters that lived to 100, and they were still hanging their clothes out on a clothesline. So
At 100?
They were doing good. So all I can say is, I've always drank tea. Maybe tea has a lot to do with it. Because Arthur Godfrey always said, he was announcer on TV for Lipton too.
Godfrey?
Arthur Godfrey. He used to be on there. You take tea, Lipton tea, for your benefit your health.
So what kind of tea do you drink? Lipton?
Lipton tea.
Hot tea or cold
Hot
tea?
tea. Oh, hot tea.
Always hot tea.
Always hot tea.
So you have tea every day right now?
Well, I only drink coffee with my donuts.
You like donuts?
Tea don't go with donuts. Oh, I was brought up on donuts.
Oh, you didn't say anything about donuts.
When I was delivering milk when I was young, when we used to be halfway through the delivery, we'd stop at this diner, and they had these delicious jelly sticks. You couldn't beat them, and that's where I grew up on jelly sticks. Well, way back before that, back in 1936, 35, 36, my mother used to make donuts. Back then, you used to bake a lot. So she used to make her own donuts. And we grew up on donuts. And especially the donut holes. We used to fight for the donut holes. That's a little thing, because they had a donut maker. And it was a round thing, but there was always a hole that it would take out. And you would cook the hole too. And they were donut holes. They were bite-sized. And as kids, we used to fight for those because of that.
Then who used to make crepes?
And my mother used to get made crepes, and she taught me how to make them, and I still make them today. Delicious. You can't beat the homemade French grapes.
So, you attribute your longevity to tea?
Well, I would say tea and good living.
Good
no
living.
Smoking, no drinking. I didn't get into bad habits. I smoked and I drank, but it wasn't something I liked.
You smoked?
So I didn't get out. Yeah, I smoked cigars,
Cigars.
pipe. The first thing we started out on was the sweet corn.
Huh?
We used
What?
We used to dry out that stuff at the end of the sweet corn. We dry it up, roll it over, take a piece of newspaper and roll it in there. And we used to light them up and burn it. Oh, it was hot smoke. Yeah.
So you didn't continue that?
No. That was one of the little things you go through in life that you do in hiding. You hide. Those are the things you don't tell mom and dad about.
And you drank a little?
I didn't drink beer till I was 29 years old.
What kind of beer?
And it was Narragansett. And the only reason why I drank it is because one of the cousins I went to, Anita's cousin, was my second wife, her cousin. Oh, we have an aircraft coming by.
Motorcycles. Hold on. Okay, I can hear you.
Just a motorcycle, yeah.
Narragansett beer.
So, in other words, I was sitting there and we were visiting her. And she said, Norman, you gotta have a drink of beer. You gotta have it. So finally I said, oh, okay. So I had a drink of beer, Narragansett. But I never did like beer. I didn't like the hops in it. It was, a lot of times I would put tomato juice in it. And that
Tomato juice and beer?
That would make it taste a little sweeter. Oh yeah. Your Uncle Robert used to do that all the time.
He used to put salt in his beer.
Well, he still uses salt. But he uses sea salt now.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Does he carry it with him?
Yeah, he's got little bottles.
That's smart.
He order it that way.
Nice.
Yeah. Patrick, his son found out where you could buy it.
Nice.
So he gets that.
So was that your favorite drink, beer?
Not
Do you have a favorite drink?
Nope, because I didn't like it.
Okay.
So then I was getting whiskey and ginger ale. But with the ginger ale, it went right to your head. It made it stronger.
What kind of whiskey?
VO, anything, Fleischmann's, any good whiskey. But after that, I decided to go on the water. Whiskey and water.
Whiskey and
That
water.
goes better than beer. Yeah.
Not whiskey nice, whiskey and water.
But I never got drunk. No. I heard too many guys come into work on Monday with a hangover. Oh, what a headache I got today. So I used to say, well, that's what you get for drinking so much. You got to know your consumption. You can't be too hoggish.
So that's your favorite. That was your favorite drink then?
Well, it still is outside a sombrero.
A sombrero. What's in a sombrero?
A Kahlua.
Kahlua.
Kahlua and milk.
That's it?
And somebody else put something else down in Florida. They put, I don't know if they put vodka in it now. Yeah.
Kahlua milk.
That there was the bartender down in Florida. She was very nice. She was that's the one I got the idea of making a clock out of my tin Thunderbird hubcaps. So I made 4 clocks out of them. Yep. And one for Robert, one for Stephen, one for myself. The other one I'm trying to figure out where the 4th one went. Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the younger generations of the world that you think they should know?
Well, I think they know it, but they don't hear it enough from their parents, and their parents should tell them how enjoyment they used to have in growing up. Children today have no childhood. Right away they're into computers. They have educated fingers instead of having a brain that they can use and make things out of their imagination. Because wherever you are as a child back then, we could make fun. And the whole thing in life is you have to have happiness, you gotta make fun, you gotta make people laugh. But today, now no one gets along. They're walking around with their crazy iPads. They don't even look where they're walking. I know, as myself, I go to Dunkin' Donuts for coffee, and they're walking in with their iPad in their hand. They won't let it down. They walk out of the car, they put it down by their neck and their shoulder. They're going to get crippled. They're going to be walking around like this. The other one's going to be walking around like that because they've been holding their phone all the time. So they don't use their imagination. So if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. So the thing is with these phones, they're very handy. I don't hold nothing against them. It's very smart. They're very educational. Yeah, everything you want is right there at your fingertip, which is good. We had to go to school to learn geography and history. Now you got it all in the iPad. Just say what you want and you get it. But somewhere along the line, as they get older, they're going to have to pay for it because their body is going to be changing. And already they're starting to get brain damage. Some of the kids are realizing it now. There's too much. So that's all I can say is you're missing out on enjoying life because before you know it, it's gone. Here I am going to be 90 years old and it's just like that. It's gone. All I can do is look back and thank goodness for memories. And I look back and I think about the kids today. What are they going to have to talk about? They won't have nothing to socialize with. I really don't know. I think that, like the Roman Empire, we are on a downward spiral. Because if you go into space, there's no coming back. Once you get out of space, in space there's no coming back because they got to set up a station up there. And they got to have a propulsion to get you back. That's never going to happen. There's no way you're going to get out of this earth alive. Period. So I can't see life beyond this planet.
So you have any regrets?
Nope. I enjoyed my life. I enjoyed my childhood. Even all the problems I had with different wives. I didn't go to war, but I had a war with women. But I'm not sorry. I went through it. I got good kids. I'm not sorry for nothing. Life is a learning process. And every day you learn something new. And right now that I lost all my wives, the 3 of them are dead. So now I met up with this older woman that's been friend of my wife and I. And now we're continuing the life that they left us with. And we're going to keep on being happy and enjoying life as much as we can. As long as I can walk and get up in the morning, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'd still like to have a car to work on.
You have a garage.
Yeah, I have a garage.
You could keep your car out there and a car inside.
Yeah, but it's not.
Gotta be careful.
It's not like having 2-car garage, where you have one to work on and one to.
You got no lift.
Pardon?
You don't have a lift for a car.
No lift for a car.
I wouldn't want you
I
to get
can't
hurt.
get underneath it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want you to get hurt.
Because I get dizzy now, so I can't get under a car.
Is there anything?
I'm going to play with this one here. When it gets off lease, I'm going to customize this car.
You gonna keep it?
I'll be going some more.
What kind of car is this?
I got a 2016 Velocity. It's a little sport car that I can afford, and it's fast enough with 4 cylinders. And it's got the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, just like the race cars. And I'm going to change the appearance some more. There's more painting or designing that I'm going to do to it. You never know. My brain keeps working.
Have you picked up the computer, or do you use computer at all?
No, I'm illiterate for the computer. I don't go on the internet because it's boring. I have nothing to say. I'm a doer, not someone who just gets on the computer and gets a whole on Facebook and whatever. And a lot of the stuff that's on Facebook shouldn't even be out there. People they say too much of what their personal life is. There's no more privacy anymore. Everything's out in the open.
Is there anything you want to say to future Brunelle generations?
Good luck. Keep smiling. Keep joking. Don't get too serious, because that'll take away from your lifespan. If you want to live long. I've always been a cartoon person. I like comic strips. I like Mickey Mouse, all those, the Roadrunner and all those guys. Yes, sir. That keeps you young. But today on TV, it's all crime, shooting and everything. It's not good. There's nothing for a good example out there. There's no good role model that you can go by outside the screeches and the sex symbols.
I think this concludes our scripted questions. So
Amen.
this is a free-form time now. If there's anything you want to share at all, this is your chance.
Well, I'm enjoying the company that I have today. My youngest son and his wife. We're doing very well. We just came back from High Hop with had a favorite breakfast of crepes. Not crepes, crepes.
Cripes!
Crepes, Suzette. Yes. And we're having a nice day here, and I hope it hasn't ended. And this afternoon, I'll be going to the car show. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, we thank you for sharing everything
Well, I
that
hope
you have today. We've learned a lot.
I hope it's very good.
It's been
I'm
interesting.
not used to doing this, but amen to that. God bless.